Good evening, dear guests. Welcome to our third webinar about vertical farming, part of the Echoing Plus project, where we embarked on a journey that intertwines a few vital and interconnected subjects like climate change, secure food production and consumption, and smart farming for the empowerment of young individuals. Today, we shine a spotlight on sustainable urban farming with PLNT. In a world facing environmental challenges, it has become imperative to explore innovative solutions that address these complex issues. Our webinars bring together experts and pioneers in the field of agriculture, ecology, and technology to discuss how we can collectively combat climate change, secure our food sources, and empower our youth through smart farming practices. Our distinguished speakers for this event are at the front of this movement. They're Dr. Iva Johovic, aka Dr. Plant, and Hans Snijder, co-founder and CEO of PLNT. They will say a bit more about themselves in a bit. Before we start, I want to mention that we have 7 more webinars on the topic of vertical farming coming up. So you can stay tuned by visiting our Facebook page, where we post more information about them. And without further ado, let's welcome our speakers, Dr. Iva Johovic and Hans Snijder, who will introduce us to the flourishing world of PLNT. Iva, Hans, the stage is yours.
Well, I can start, Hans can start. Anyway, we are the plant. My name is Iva, as Joanna already said. Thank you so much again for giving us this opportunity to participate in your webinars. It's really our pleasure to share our experience, how we came up with starting to grow as a vertical farm. That's going to be more Hans, who's going to share his whole trip, and he's going to tell you how we do things, what is motivating us, what we are striving for. In any case, about me, I'm biologist and ecologist and agronomist by background. My PhD is actually in ecology, not in plant biology, but Hans is always teasing me that I'm Dr. Plant.
She is.
Well, Hans is economist by background, and you can say.
So my name is Hans Snijder. I am one of the co-founders and the current CEO of PLNT. I'm really happy to have everybody here, whether you're joining the webinar or you're watching this later on YouTube. One thing we enjoy at PLNT is spreading knowledge about vertical farming, because we love what we do, and second, we believe in sharing lots of information about how we do things, and also a bit why we set up PLNT. We aim to inspire and also help other people who like to journey into vertical farming. As you've already told you, I am an economist in background, also extensive background in IT, so information technology, and some in finance as well, banking. So I have a broad background before venturing into agriculture.
Before becoming farmer.
Yes, before becoming a farmer.
Okay.
Shall we start by
we can start.
Sharing a little bit about
our menu for today. Our menu for today is starting with, of course, starters. We're going to give you a brief introduction to Plant Company, why Plant, how Plant came to be. Then as a main dish, we're going to tell you how do we work, what do we grow, and who makes Plant work. We're going to tell you a little bit about our team, what is our backgrounds, and how we do it. And as a dessert today, we're going to tell you what makes us tick, what makes us excited about vertical farming. We're going to tell you more about our principles, what we stand for, and of course, what we have achieved in these 4 years since Plant started to exist. Of course, we're going to share also what's next, what we have on our plate, and we're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions and share how you came up the idea of starting to do farming vertically, and what would you like to do?
So the starters is mostly I get to talk about starters, with main course is Eva, so the real information is all handled by Eva.
No.
And I'll do some research afterwards.
We're going to share that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe a little bit about plants. As you read in the first slide, maybe At Plant, we combine high-tech agriculture with as many sustainable principles as we can possibly think of. Of course, vertical farming has some inherent sustainable advantages, but they can be augmented by applying the lots more principles, and we have a better way of growing things. We are located in Antwerp, and we have been operating for about 4 years. Our first harvest was in March 2019, and we are a grower. So I often say that there are two challenges when it comes to vertical farming. One is really the technology challenge, and that's lots of companies working on that, focusing on building machines, focusing on building software, focusing on lamps, lights, etc., and integrating those. The other challenge is really about how do you apply this technology? How do you apply vertical farming in such a way that it becomes, for me as an economist, very important, economically viable as well, so you can have a business that runs, because all the benefits of vertical farming, they will not help if you cannot run a successful farm. That's very simple. If you can't sell your produce, if you can't sell the things that you produce, it doesn't matter if you produce well and sustainable, but if nobody's buying it, it will end very soon. So that's very important as well. A very big challenge, how to operationally and commercially have a vertical farm. As planned, we are a 4-people team. We'll talk about it a little bit more. We have a lot of student writers who support as well. From a market perspective, we focus both on restaurants and consumers. They balance each other out very well. We have over 30 active restaurants which we deliver to, and over 100 active subscribers that we use. I say subscribers, and we'll talk a bit in the principles as well. Is because one of the principles we adhere to is we grow to order. It's slightly difficult sometimes, restaurants, but we really want to. We don't have no desire to add to food waste whatsoever. That's why we have subscribers, that we know how much should be produced for people, so it gets eaten instead of thrown away. For the last 3 years, we've been operationally break-even as well. One of our key goals as well, so we are able to run our farm operationally. The key thing we are working currently on is getting our return on investment as well, so that we have our capital expenditure returned as well. We grow lots of different things. We'll talk about it a bit. We have been tested over 70 different varieties, but Iva will talk about that a bit more. But we focus on leafy greens, herbs, microgreens, and flowers.
Depending on the season.
Depending a bit on the season, although
the best in the winter, when there is no flowers around.
Yes. So that's a bit what Plant does. As said, you can see maybe in the bottom right, we are located in Antwerp, on the border between the harbor and the city. Everything is housed in containers. So we are a container farm, both from a technology perspective as from a surroundings, which you can see a bit, the metal reflecting around us. We use containers as well for the entire construction. So maybe a little bit about how we came to be, a little bit about why did we start Plant. So it started a while back for me as well. Basically, when my kids were born, I started getting more into food. What is healthy food? And from healthy food, you go to how food is grown, and you start discovering that. So there's lots of great things you discover about all the nutrients that's in food, and you start discovering lots of people who grow really healthy food, but you also discover things that could be better in the way we produce food. Now, and as I mentioned, I have a bit of an IT background as well, so I'm what I call a techno-optimist. I think technology can solve lots of our problems. It's one, if you go back all the way to the Club of Rome with predictions that did not come out, technology can solve a lot of issues we have when it comes to either ecology or when it comes to agronomics. So as a techno-optimist, I started looking at vertical farming at some point, and it's like, hey, this is something that's really interesting, both from a sustainability perspective, as from a food growing perspective, water recuperation, all these beautiful things that vertical farming can do. However, I couldn't find that many people doing it, which was like, why don't I see this technology much more? Why is this not happening anywhere? So that really triggered me. And then I ran into two like-minded people at school, actually, at my kids' school when they were young. And they had similar ideas when it came to sustainability or technology. And we got together and we said, well, let's try plants. I had enough as well from a capital point of view that we could try out a pilot. And we launched the pilot in a smaller set containers than currently. We could not have this meeting in that original setting because it'd be too cramped. So we really started out as a bit of pilot. And we got our first container. You can see a bit in the top of the presentation where some of the first container is there. We launched that and we really focused on can we get this whole vertical farming thing up and running, both commercially and operationally. And it's been a pioneering journey because really there is no manual. There is nobody who can tell you. People can tell you this is how hydroponics works, but nobody can tell you if you have a vertical farm which comes with a large capital expenditure and you have to get plants out and sell that plants that are different. You are outside of the usual chain of how things are grown. How do you market this? How do you go to restaurants? How do you produce something that chefs really want? Because the taste that we produce is fantastic, but how do you get that in a predictable way to chefs and restaurants? I can tell you the first time we went to a restaurant, we had great, lovely basil, and chefs looked at us and go like, what do I do with this? Because it was way too big, the plant. And so we had to pivot quite a bit to get our product in the right way. Now, after about 2 years, we saw that it was really successful. We had lots of restaurants interested. We could see that after 2 years, we had our first moment where we were operation break even. So we could see that the sales were going, but our production was still slightly too small. And that's when we decided to expand, which you can see here. And we moved to a much larger location in the city. Why in the city? Because I believe vertical farming is something that is ideally suited and uniquely suited as well to an urban environment, barring a few extreme weather situations and climates. But if in the most part of the world, it is extremely suited to an urban environment because it doesn't use much space. It is directly there, close to your consumers. And that makes for something you see as well, F&F principles, the ability to have an ultra short supply chain and get things to your restaurants and to your consumers super fresh and, well, quite frankly, super delicious.
In the way that they want it, yeah.
And the way that what they want to. So that's why we expanded into a bit more the harbor area, a bit more space. We expanded to have more production facility. So that gives you a bit of a...
You're expanding even more.
We're going to expand some even more. And so that's our growth journey a bit. It's a little bit about how and why we started PLNT. So because I believe there's a better way to do it. And somehow somebody has to try and do it. We're, of course, not the only one, but there aren't that many of us anyway.
And also share the experience.
Absolutely.
Share the path.
Transparency, because I don't believe in keeping secrets.